Just like all you knife addicts out there, my rotation of knives change almost on a daily basis. And you go through your favorites and which one you've been carrying the most and whatnot. So, in the last 30 to 45 days, these are the knives that I've carried the most, starting with number 5. The Spyderco Paramilitary 3. This knife went from 0 to hero once I got these Rockscale Designs skinny mod with the titanium on here. This absolutely changed my opinion of the Para 3, and I thoroughly enjoy carrying this guy even more than the Para 2, which never happened up until I got these scales. The comfort in hand is just silly, the ease of carry is great, and these titanium scales really give it this premium feel. Yes, I have a rec or whatever, I don't know what pocket clip that is. I'm getting over the deep carry pocket clips as you're gonna see in some of these other knives. I actually prefer the slim aesthetic and carry rather than that fold over clip that we see in the Lynch and MXG. The Spyderco Para 3 being my number 5 for the last 30 to 45 days of 2022. Number 4 on the list is my Reeves umnumzaan. This knife is weird. I almost sold it, and then the guy backed out because he didn't want to wait for me to review it, and I was taking my time. It's my fault, not his. But I'm so glad he did. Once I changed out the original Reeve pocket clip, which I think works just fine on the Sabenza, but on the umnumzaan needs to go. The bill right here creates this massive hot spot compounded with the lock bar sticking out, as you can see from this side, and it's just a hot spot nightmare. But once I got rid of that clip, it almost fits. Everything seems to work so much better. The last thing that I did that you can almost see on here is I put a little bit of texturing on that thumb stud so that I can reverse flick it. And once I put that texturing on there, I can reverse flick the umnumzaan super easy. Now, I don't recommend putting texturing on the thumb stud itself unless you plan on keeping this knife forever, because yes, you're gonna mar it up, but once it's yours, you make it your own, right? There's something so appealing about this knife, and once you have it in hand, I'm not all about the long, kind of stabby looking knives. Not saying this is long and stabby, but it's not that tall blade face that I usually prefer. But this is a large knife that just carries oh so damn well in your pocket, and it's just so satisfying to have. And once I added that reverse flick additive, hold on, it's kind of hard to do on a camera, it just made it to where I just couldn't get rid of this knife. Oh my gosh. And by rid of it, I mean out of my pocket. It is very difficult to keep this thing out of my pocket. This was number 4, the Reeve umnumzaan. And number 3 on the list, and very close to 1 and 2, is my Spyderco Manix 2 in Rex 45, specifically with the Rockscale Skinny Mod titanium scales. It also has a titanium Flytanium ball cage in here, and oh my gosh, once I threw these scales on there, listen to this. The clicks and clacks that the acoustics provide when you're fidgeting with this is just incredible. And the ergonomics of the Manix 2, people have talked about for years, and they're not wrong, but then you add the skinny mod and it feels even better. This knife is awesome, feels so premium once you add these, and with the Rex 45, it kind of is now. This is a bad freaking knife. Easily one of my most favorite in my collection, and it's weird. Kind of like my Benchmade bug out, where I added the Flytanium scales and all of a sudden it changes it for me. It went from just a blah knife to one of my favorite users almost of all time. The same thing happened with my Manix 2 and my Para 3. Here you can see them next to each other. And here you can tell by the pocket clips I have a very specific aesthetic that I actually really enjoy. Guys, if you haven't tried it, I can't recommend these 2 scales enough. Now, I tried Rockscale Designs scales for the bug out, and I actually prefer the Flytanium with the contouring. But these 2, the skinny mods, I don't think there's a better scale set out there for these knives. This is my Spyderco Manix 2 coming in at number 3. Coming in at number 2 almost by default, and you'll understand why once I show number 1, my Spyderco Gil Bradley II. Once I got this knife, it's funny, Jake and I are talking, he actually just got his hands on one. This knife is so full of flaws that it irritates the living crap out of you, and it's one of those knives that you give so many passes for because it just feels so good. This thing is absolutely neutral in hand. You can put your paws anywhere on this guy that you want, and it still feels pretty damn good. This blade shape is so useful, slicey, and yet relatively robust. You don't feel like you're gonna damage anything. Whereas on the Para 2 and the Para 3, you have this dainty tip. Yes, the Gil Bradley II has a dainty tip, but due to that hollow grind and the swedge that carries out there, there's a little bit more strength. This is a knife that I've already taken out of my showcase of knives that are like my favorite, and it is literally sitting out at all times because I'm constantly grabbing it and putting it in my pocket. As you can tell, I scratched up and I kind of screwed up doing what I was trying to do, but I tried to round off this Spidey hole right here, and it worked. It's super soft now, and it feels pretty good. It's almost too soft, it's slippery, but I didn't do it to the other side, so the reverse flicking is just as easy. You can still thumb flick it, but the slow roll is where this knife really just shines. It's so nice to slow roll the Gil Bradley II. This is a full-size knife that carries very, very well. I have some scales on here from Carbodize that I absolutely love. It made me love this knife even more. I did have to carve out a little bit of section to attack this liner, but I didn't do it on the Carbodize scales because once you take it off of the liner, you don't really need it on the scales. I can get in there just fine with a Band-Aid on my thumb. Yes, the detent's a little light. You know, Jake was talking about that too. And it's just weird. I'm okay with all of this and actually learned to love it. Number 4 on the list is the Spyderco Gil Bradley II. My number 1 most carried knife in the past, say, 45 days is my Spyderco Techno II. When I first got this knife, once again, this is a knife that I didn't appreciate. But once I dealt with, I believe it's Rip's Garage Tech, I got this pocket clip for it. It is a, once again, game changer for this knife. Though that wire pocket clip that was on there created such a bad hot spot, it made you almost not like it, but it was still a knife that I loved. This small sheep's foot style blade is the perfect size for a lot of things, despite being a pretty damn small knife, which is why I paired these two together quite frequently. And even though it's only a 3-finger grip, it feels comfortable in the hand. This frame lock is oh so darn smooth, so even fidgeting with this guy feels pretty cool, and you can still reverse flick it. Everything about this is just incredible. But what makes this my most carried in the past 30 to 45 days? This is the perfect 5th pocket knife, guys. This fits in that little watch pocket or change pocket, whatever it is, on your right-hand side, oh so well that it's taken the place of my Kershaw Launch 11. I talked about it all the time, how the Kershaw Launch 11 is just an incredible 5th pocket knife. Well, this robust sheep's foot style blade and the premium feel, I mean, we all get a little snobby every now and then, really just overcame that and made this one of my favorites. Number 1 on the list was the Spyderco Techno II, specifically with the Rip's Garage Tech pocket clip. And might I add, I added the green pocket clip so it matches the barrel spacers that come standard with the Techno II. In the comments below, why don't you tell me what your top 2 carried knives were for the past 30 to 45 days?